So, Clark, maybe just by way of introduction, I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how it is you got involved in organizing around disability rights and disability advocacy. I mean, was there a particular moment? Was it a progression? What kinds of things sort of motivated you to become involved in organizing work?
Okay. Well, as I like to start all my interviews, it all started back in 1972, which was the year that I was born. But seriously though, I was born in Marion, Michigan. Well, actually, the nearest hospital was Cadillac. I was born with my disability, which is arthrogryposis multiplex congenita, and I was like the only one out there with a disability in the living in the rural areas. My parents were great in that they were really pushing me to do anything and everything that I could. So that was helpful in giving me like a base personality, or sort of willingness to get involved and to do things or whatever. And then as another really big part of my history, I think, I don't know that it relates directly, but is that my father was a truck driver, and from like when I was 6 till maybe 12, I was all over the country with him every time we were not in school, or every time school was on break. So spring breaks, Christmas break, summer vacations, coast to coast, all over the world. Oh, well, not the world, all over the country. Just some really great stuff, and for that many years, there was a lot of things to see. So I just kind of got a fairly well-rounded perspective of life, and then at school, I was the only person with a significant physical disability there, and I was very fortunate, I feel, in meeting others and knowing the things that they'd gone through. I know that I was, in that I didn't really have, or my parents didn't have, I should say, much of a problem getting the school to keep me in mainstream education or mainstream classes. I needed assistance, and strangely enough, for the first couple of years, my mom went to school with me. But they got over that, got around that rather, and they got an aide for me for lunch time and whatnot when I need some assistance, and the teachers and even my classmates started helping with the books or whatever. So before long, I was sitting next to a friend's desk, and that was my helper rather than an aide during the classes. And so there was this natural I belong. I feel comfortable amongst people without disabilities. There was no segregation and a limited perspective or whatever. And then from that perspective, having that first, then I went to Camp Royale. It's a disability camp. It was actually started like in the 50s, I think, as a Girl Scouts project, as to help people that had polio at that time have a place that they could also go to camp where they're at the same time that their siblings or everybody else in their life was going to camp. So I went to that for a while, and then that was really my first experience with having, or first time having an experience around a lot of other people with disabilities all at the same time. And some of them, it was really a great experience. That camp's since closed, but the last year that it was open, which would have been the last year that I could have gone, I was invited to come back as a counselor. And there were 2 kids with behavioral disabilities or behavioral issues, or maybe emotional needs would be the better way to put it, that I think they were twins, they were brothers for sure, and and they weren't in wheelchairs or anything, but they were my charge, And this camp was great because it was one-on-one. It would be a counselor with the person with a disability. and then halfway through the week, then you'd switch and you'd get a new counselor, and you'd go on. And so anyway, I was these kids' counselor, and I don't know. That was maybe my first experience with some sort of responsibility, even despite or in spite of or whatever having a disability. So I don't know. It was a great thing. So then fast forward a little bit. I'm looking at ending high school and not wanting to live in the rural areas, or knowing that if I did, that my opportunities would be so limited because I couldn't drive, and just all kinds of stuff. So I said first to MRS, Michigan Rehabilitation Services Counselor, that I wanted to go to school for something. I opted for computer programming, and I said that I'd like to go to school at a trade school, so I didn't have to do all the liberal arts stuff that would take up, so much time for me writing and everything. And it would have to be, I'd like it to be a place that I could stay on campus, because otherwise I could see, the nearest college as being what the option would be, and that would be a lot of transportation back and forth. And if you get me in a place that I can be on campus, then I'd like to, then I would need to have some personal attendant services, in order for me to be, well-groomed and, healthy while I was there. So, to my surprise, he said, "Oh, that'd be State Technical Institute and Rehabilitation Center in Plainwell." And I'd never heard of it. And anyway, I went there for computer programming. I was there for 10 months. It was a 10-month program. It was an everyday kind of thing. I don't know, 7, 8 hours a day. And I didn't feel real confident about my programming skills when I graduated. There was a trade school, so they're like, "Well, we'll send you home if you're not good enough." And I graduated, so apparently I was proficient enough at it, but I didn't really feel like that was my thing. So when I talked to my MRS counselor next, I said, "Okay, now as I'm getting close to the end of this program, my next thing is I don't want to have to take this back to someplace that I can't use it. I want to go to live in some city." So I said, and I don't really know how to do anything. So it'd be great if there was a transitional living program or something like that open somewhere. And lo and behold, he once again said, "Well, that'd be Sojourners over in Grand Rapids on the East Beltline." So and that was my first, and I apologize for the lengthy intro, but that was my my first introduction to getting to Centers for Independent Living, because that was actually a Hope Network. You little guy. That was a Hope Network program. Don't put the stick in there. It was a Hope Network program operated by what was then the Grand Rapids Center for Independent Living, and it was like a little apartment complex, and they had 2 wings, and one of them was for people with traumatic brain injury, and the other was for physical disability independent living. And they were there to help people that were new to disability or new to living on their own with a disability, to pretty much all aspects. How to find accessible housing, how to get on the accessible housing lists, an introduction to accessible / subsidized housing, and also how to find and manage personal attendant services workers, and they're the ones that got me this, they didn't get me the apartment, but I got on the list for this apartment while I was there, and they made it possible for me to get as high as I was on the list for this apartment by charging me more than half of my rent, which is one of the little deals that, if you charge more than half your rent where you're at, then you can move up on the list. Anyway, so the CIL's office, the satellite office, was right across the hallway from my suite at Sojourners. So the lady from the CIL who had come to Stirk, STIRC, Stirk, the college thing that I was at, she was the one that was in the office right across the hall for me. So she was my introduction to the whole program. She was close enough that we could speak on a regular basis, every day pretty much. And yeah, so I went in there and I kind of started learning some of the things that CILs do and what, independent living is and how big of a problem it is or can be for people in situations such as my own. I felt really fortunate every time that I needed some. I started with great parents, had a good school, I had these experiences that gave me everything that I needed to be, equipped to, get around in the world. And as soon as I wanted a program or asked for it, the people, it just fell in my lap every place that I went. But, I realized soon that, pretty quickly, that wasn't the case for everybody. And one of the aspects that they covered at this place was what you're going to do with your life. And there were recreation options, and some people chose to get into wheelchair basketball, and others chose to, maybe some crafts or some like micro enterprise, take a hobby and turn it into something that they can maybe make a little bit of money on. And the other option was advocacy, disability rights advocacy, or advocacy in general. But since we had disabilities, that would make the most sense. And we were introduced to the organization called ADAPT, and a few of us said this sounds like a great thing. ADAPT sounds like they were tackling and had been tackling the institutional bias. Which may I give a little history on ADAPT?
Of course.
Okay, so ADAPT really began with about it's either 7 or 17 people. I think 17 people in Denver, and it started with a guy named... It started with a guy named Wade Blank. He was a nursing home administrator in Denver, and he realized that there were old people and young people all in the same nursing home, and they were all kind of in the same place, and they were getting on each other's nerves all the time. The young people wanted to listen to music, and the old people didn't, and the young people wanted pizza, and the old people needed pureed peas and stuff, and and so he took it upon himself as administrator, first very innocent beginnings, to kind of separate into wings, the young people over here and the more aged over here, and he found that was a better experience for pretty much everyone all the way around. And he was allowing the younger people to have radios, and he was and this is really the start of it, I think. He started using the nursing home's food money to buy pizzas, or to buy foods that were more age appropriate, perhaps, to the younger people that were living there. And then I think it was kind of a click in his head, like, these nursing home dollars could be used for something other than what are normally considered or thought of as nursing home things, programs, or whatever. So his superiors didn't care for this much, but he eventually said, well, why not use the residential dollars that are paying for these rooms in the nursing home to buy apartments, or to pay for apartments in the community for these people. So for the younger people, because there's no reason for them to live here. They just have physical disabilities, and they could be, we could send our aides out to the apartments and just as easily. They could be living in the community. I know, Guy. Your front leg's falling down there a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much where it started. But he came up with this idea. He got fired from this place, and he said, "Well, I know that's a good idea. Why are Medicaid dollars that could be used to help people stay in their communities? Why are those being funneled automatically to nursing homes?" So, and that's how the term began, is the institutional bias, because in 1965, the Social Security Act had Title 19 had this thing about Medicaid that said that the way I tell it in sort of a layman's thing is that the country was kind of like, well, we're all Americans here, and for whatever reason, sometimes from war, sometimes from accidents, sometimes for disabilities that people are born with, people end up in situations where they're not able to get themselves in and out of bed, or to take a shower or whatever. So we, as Americans, we want to do the right thing. We're going to set up this, and sometimes they don't have the money to buy the help, and they don't have maybe the family to provide the services for free. So they're like, so we're going to set this program up to sort of an insurance thing to pay for the services that they need, and they called that Medicaid. And then they had the not bright idea of suggesting, and it'd be probably really convenient for states to just have these collection points, these places where all the people that need this assistance could come, which was nursing homes. And in the in-home services were kind of an afterthought. They said, or if states want, they could start some sort of other program, and that's what the in-home services are. They're called Medicaid waiver services. Okay, get down. Come on, get down. Good boy. So a state can apply for a Medicaid waiver for the people in their state that need services but don't want to go to a nursing home. But the states always put caps on how much. I mean, they figure, well, we're going to spend about so and so many $1 million this year to apply for waivers. But if you come in, if those monies get spent and you come in after that, then you get funneled off to a nursing home. So because that's where the money's going. That's the place where the Medicaid dollars go first. So anyway, so when I was introduced to ADAPT, Bob Liston and Verna Spaeth from Michigan ADAPT, they came to Sojourners to introduce me to these to ADAPT, to tell all of us about it. And one of the things that they said was, it's an amazing experience. It's so liberating. There'll be like 500 people with disabilities coming from all over the country to converge on one place, one site of injustice, one place where an organization, a federal department could be doing more that isn't. And we all do a huge demonstration, and we're all on the same page, and we're all, just feeling the power of everybody else, and we're all chanting the same thing. And then, that sounded great, and obviously in itself. And then it's like, and then you come back at the end of the day, and we have these large meetings. We just call them the big ADAPT meeting. Because we're usually in one large hotel, everybody in the same hotel, so we've contracted out or whatever this the big meeting room of the hotel, that's where everybody comes at the end of the day. And Bob Liston was saying that, and you've got, you've got people here with cerebral palsy. Some people are difficult to understand because of their inability to enunciate clearly or whatever. But in ADAPT, no matter what it is, when we pass the microphone, who it is, in ADAPT, no matter who it is, when we pass the microphone around in the big meeting room, if somebody's got something to say, the whole group, is as quiet as possible and tries to figure out what this person is saying, and I'm like, wow, that's like, a real togetherness kind of thing. That's like a true thing. So, wheelchair basketball's not going to work for me. I would rather go and do that. And so the first year the very next year that they had an action after that introduction, a buddy of mine and I that were both in Sojourners at the time, we said, we're going to, we signed up to go to the NICL conference, the National Center for Independent Living, or National something like that. And we signed up for that because 2 days into that conference was when that ADAPT action began. So we got funded to go to the conference, and then we jumped ship and went to the ADAPT meeting, and I kept coming back for years. It was amazing. It really was as awesome as it sounded, and so back to the point of your question. Well, that's how I got it started. But one of the things that really kept me in it was that I recognized that whether you're a young person and don't want to live in a nursing home, or if you're an old person and don't want to have to go to a nursing home, there isn't really any reason that a person should have to go to a nursing home. There's these funds available to pay for the services that you need, and it's actually cheaper every time the state does allow or whatever you to stay in your own home. So I was thinking, not only myself, who knows what's going to happen. Life's been great so far, but anything can happen at any time. So I don't want to go to a nursing home. I've seen them. I see what happens in them, and I have no choice, no options really about when to eat and what to eat and when to get up or when to take a shower or anything. And but really it was that I didn't want my family members, my parents, my siblings, my grandparents, anybody to have to go to a nursing home if they didn't want to. And with this Medicaid institutional bias the way that it was, that's exactly what would be happening if nobody was trying to do anything about this. So that was my thing for a really long time. That was my reason for wanting to be there.